All right, all right. I'm going to give everybody like 30 seconds just to get the notification. Because it takes like 30 seconds for the notification to go out, to people on YouTube, right? But there's some stuff to talk about tonight. Hell, I don't even know where I want to start, man. One thing I want to comment on, I just seen maybe 30 minutes ago, I got a notification because I'm subscribed to the Joe Rogan podcast, right? And like his second channel. And I just seen he uploaded a video where he actually brought down Trump and, did like a 2 hour sit down with him. I was like, oh shit, this guy was able to get Trump down there. I believe that he's over in, I believe Joe's over in California, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be interesting. I definitely have that on my watch later list. So I'm going to definitely be checking that out very soon. Hell, like they already have like clips of it. Like, say for instance, if you do like a 2 hour long discussion, people will take like little segments out into like 10-minute or 6-minute long clips. It's like shit, they already took clips from the conversation and the conversation was just uploaded like 2 hours ago. Right? Hell, it was uploaded 2 hours ago, but I just got the notification 30 minutes ago. So hell, that goes into what I was saying earlier that notifications can even be delayed at times. Like, believe it or not, I'll give you another example. Like, there's been times where I've got a notification about a video that somebody uploaded like literally 4 days ago. It's like, well, shit, why the hell am I getting a notification, a half a week later for a video they uploaded like 4 days ago? That's a little bit weird. But the other Trump thing, I also seen, it's ironic. Both Joe Rogan uploaded the Trump podcast today, and then I also seen another channel I'm subscribed to named ERB, which stands for Epic Rap Battle History. They actually put up a post this evening about a upcoming rap battle they got, and of course it's between Trump and Kamala Harris. It's like when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, they're actually gonna do that. I've been seeing people in the comments talk about how they recommend them doing it, right? People want to see that because they actually did like the last election, right, with Trump and Biden. They actually did like an ERB battle, between the two of them, and the fans liked that one, right? Everybody enjoyed how that went, right? So it's like, damn, they're actually gonna do a rap battle between Trump and Harris, and of course, obviously, it's not the real people involved, but they dress them up in a way to make it look like it is, and they sound similar to them. You know what I'm saying? But that's gonna be pretty funny. So that'll hopefully be out very soon. I believe the one they did about Trump and Biden like 4 years ago. I believe it has like 35 million views, maybe 40 million views. You can look it up. But they're very popular. But I will say though, even though their music is popular now, it definitely have fallen a long way because they used to, like, I'm talking like 8, 10 years ago, they used to get literally like 100 million views on their rap battles they put up, right? Like they got videos on there that if you check them now, some of them got 80 million, 60 million, 100 million, 120 million. But now the last 3 years, their videos are only getting like 7 million. I believe one has 16 million, one got 5 million, which again, that's still a lot, right? That's still a lot of views, but definitely fell from the state that used to be like 10 years ago or whatever. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be pretty funny. Hell, and I know they did one between Barack Obama and what was this other guy, Mitt Romney, and they always bring this guy Abraham Lincoln in at the end of the rap battle, right? It's like a fan favorite. But people got pissed off they didn't do it with the Trump and the Biden video. So hell, if they listen to the fans, they'll do it with the new one they're working on. But we'll see what happens with that. On another side note, I'm was looking at the settings on StreamYard, and I noticed that they had like a new section for like you can change the scrolling icon at the bottom. Like you see where it says feel free to ask your questions or comments. I usually have it as blue, but I seen that I gave an option to change it to orange. It actually gave multiple options. You could change it to orange, blue, purple, pink, black, and hell, did I say green yet? Yeah, but green's on there too. Among a couple other colors. It's like shit. I'm able to get that for free. That's pretty sweet. Because it seems like every other feature on StreamYard they want you to pay for, right? Like, I was joking the other day. It's like, this stuff, it's all going up, right? All of this pricing, it all went up. StreamYard used to be like $8 a month, and now they want $45 a month for the exact same thing. It's like shit. I'm sitting over here, I'm content just to use the free version, right? I mean, hell, all I need is my 20 free hours a month, and I'm good. You got the way you use it wisely is you keep your streams to like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, and you can, you'll find out you can do a lot of streams if you watch the time that you're using. You got to use it wisely, and then of course you can use the little life hack. Like say if you start a stream and you have 19 hours, let me rephrase myself. If you start a live stream when you already use 19 out of the 20 hours, you can go live as long as you want past the 20-hour point. It's just when you end the stream, you won't be able to do another one until the time restarts the following month, right? So you can use that little life hack to get bonus hours, and that's what I usually like to do, right? I'll deliberately start a stream when I have 1 hour of time left out of the 20 hours a month. And then if I go live for, say, 7 or 8 hours, I'm getting multiple hours for free. So hell, you can technically get like, what is that, 28 hours? Hell, possibly 30 hours a month you could technically get for free. Somebody in the comment named Bond said, "What's up? Hey, how you doing, Bond? Seems like a new face." Let me see real quick. One other thing I want to talk about is I was just looking on YouTube. Oh, Bond said I've been around here before. I mean, shit, that could be the case, man. But I think you changed your profile picture. My bad. But I was gonna say that I was looking on YouTube for a couple live streams to join on, and there's basically just a bunch of garbage. There's people on there, talking about a bunch of bullshit and garbage. It's like, I sit here, look for 30 minutes to try to find a decent stream to join, and it's nothing but a bunch of garbage. It's it's really pathetic. So I was like, you know what, why not, I'll just go live on my page for an hour, Since nobody else is doing anything else on YouTube, apparently, I'll just go live for an hour, you know. But I will say this though, one thing I did do, um, before I started to look for, other streams that were live, I did go on to what's this dude? Jay Gee. I went on to Jay Gee's channel and had a discussion with there was like this dude on there. I believe his name was Hubble or something like that. Ray Hubby Hubble or something like that. And he was like an agnostic, so we were just having a conversation, about the agnostic, viewpoint and stuff like that. It was a decent conversation. I mean, Hubble was a little bit slow. I'm not even gonna lie, right? He seemed like a slow person, right? Like, you really have to, dumb it down to elementary level with him. No offense against that dude, very respectable, but it's wasn't the brightest bulb in the box, but no disrespect. And then this other simp that I've talked to multiple times in the past, this other cat, um, what's this dude? Yeah, full professing preterist, right? Professing preterist. For those who don't know who that is, right? For those living under a box, that dude basically is like one of these full preterist guys that goes around on YouTube and like joins live streams and tries to convince people that we're living in heaven today and that, the Bible, all of that is fulfilled and, whatnot. That's what that dummy goes around and says, right? So, when he joined, which I didn't know that he was going to join, he just clicked the link and joined randomly out of the blue when it was talking to the hubby. And I was like, oh shit, it's this dude. It's this dummy again. But hey, look, I'm not going to run from the conversation. Hey, look, there's no reason to run from the conversation, right? Even though I've dealt with the cat multiple times, for the sake of people listening to the discussion live, I'm not just gonna, run from the conversation. If the dude wants to join and chat, I'll do that. There's no problem with that. Hell, like say for instance, like when Perry joined my stream a couple weeks ago, I didn't just kick the dude out and just, run away and wouldn't talk. I let the dude on and talk to him. Well, at least for 20 minutes I tried to, why I was able to keep him tamed. But then when he started to, act out, he had to be shit. When he started to act out, he had to get checked out. Inside joke, right? He had to get checked out, right? He had to get checked out of here. But anyway, I embarrassed this dude, professing preterist. I mean, this was an absolute body bag tonight. And don't worry, because y'all are going to get a chance to watch the conversation. I don't know if I'm going to upload it tomorrow or the day after that, but trust me, it's coming very soon on my channel. The discussion I did tonight with professing preterists. I don't think I'm going to upload the conversation I did with Hubby though. And again, I don't say it out of disrespect. I don't know if the guy's name was Hubble or Hubby. It was something like that, right? So I'm not trying to make fun of him if he's watching, but I honestly don't remember the name. It was one of the two, right? So I'm not going to upload that conversation because that was pretty bad. Like, I mean, hell, from his side of the argument, that was very, very pathetic. But I admit I could have done more professional myself. And that's a thing about me that you got to respect, that I keep it real, right? I'm not going to sit here and put myself on some type of pedestal. I have my flaws, right? I make my mistakes as well. Hell, I'm not perfect, right? I'm not perfect like Perry Green is and his, Trailwood trailer park on High Holy Hill, New Jerusalem, like that dummy. But anyway, I see comments coming and I'll address some of the comments, but just let me rant a little bit if you don't mind. So yeah, this was pretty brutal, the discussion tonight with Full Preterist. Very brutal. It was about 40 minutes long because Jay Gee didn't have a whole lot of time because the whole stream was like 5 hours, but then Preterist joined at like the last 40 minutes or so, right? But in the 40 minutes, I mean, man, this was absolutely brutal. The dummy, like, let me say this. The dummy literally tries to say that there is going to be no physical kingdom set up on the earth. Let that sink in for a second. This dude says that there is no physical kingdom. So then me and people from the comments, we asked them about, well, what about what we read in the Bible, such as Revelation, the 21st chapter, 22nd chapter, where it literally goes into depict the physical kingdom. It talks about the streets of gold, talks about it having 12 gates leading into the city. And on the top of the gates, it has plaques with the names of the 12 apostles written into it. And each gate was for one of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. And then it goes into measurements and lengths of it. And it even talks about people not being allowed to go into the walls, talks about kings of the nations bringing their riches to the gates of the kingdom. So, I mean, reading all of that, how can you say that it's not literal? How can you say that's not a physical empire that's going to exist? And the dummy was like, oh, it's all parabolic. It's all not literal. What I joke with him, it's like, well, shit. It's like, what do you believe that's literal in the Bible? Is like literally every word and every verse not literal then? Or do you like, pick and choose what ones you want to believe? Again, it's very pathetic, very pathetic. And then one of the absolute daggers I gave the dude is I brought up, was that Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44. And, they're paraphrasing it, but it says that, at the end of these four kingdoms, God's going to set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, and it shall reign over all nations, and it will bring low all nations. You can read it, Daniel 2:44. Then I asked him, well, what do you think about this, right? If we're living in God's kingdom today, first of all, how the hell do you have all these dominant nations on earth? Like, say, for instance, America, Russia, China, and the list could go on and on. But how do you have all these dominant nations that rule over the earth if Christ in his kingdom is apparently ruling on earth today? And again, they don't have an answer for it. All they have to do is just, they have to talk. What's the word I'm looking for? All they can do is just talk a lot of shit. That's really all they can do. That's all they have. Uh, Let me see some comments. Hey, how you doing, Jay? Hope you're doing well, man. And for those who don't know, I'll just explain it real quick. Jay recently lost his main channel, Sacramento Truth Movement, due to a couple copyright strikes from this dude, Pine Creek, which you can look him up as like a popular atheist YouTuber. Yeah, so AJ, hope you can get that. What's the word I'm looking for? Excuse me. Hope you can get that worked out. Is what I meant to say, right? Hope you can get that worked out, man. And I definitely wish you the best of luck with that. Jay said I used to call Bond Gold Bond. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Hey, how you doing, Bible Defender? Hope you're doing good, man. Shit. Well, I don't recall calling Pine Creek my friend, to be honest with you. In fact, I never even talked to Pine Creek before. Yeah, so Pine Creek's definitely not a friend of mine. Yeah, and I find it funny because guys like that will say, "Oh, well, ETT and Nick are like buddy buddy." It's like, well, when the hell did I ever say that? I never said that Nick was like my buddy buddy. Now, sure, I can get along and have a friendly conversation with Nick, but that doesn't mean that we're like buddy buddies. In fact, let me educate you on something. Nick just told me yesterday that he wants to have a debate about polygamy with me. So if we were all buddy buddy, then we wouldn't do a debate. His ideas and views versus my ideas and views. You know what I'm saying? So again, I think Nick's a cool dude. I would consider him to be a cool guy that I can get along with, but he's certainly not buddy buddy with me. But again, I can definitely give him a certain level of respect, and he can give me a certain level of respect. And that's a good thing. But again, I don't want to just regurgitate whatever he says, and I don't want him to regurgitate whatever I say. His- the brother said, laughing my ass off, we're living in the kingdom of heaven. What's that guy smoking? It's funny that you bring that up, man, because I even joked to him during the debate. I was like, man, it's like, man, are you like, on some type of like drugs or something? It's like, first of all, you're on here, speaking 500 words in like 2 seconds. It's like, I don't know if the dude has like ADHD or if the dude's like, smoking some type of strong substances. Maybe Perry Green sent him like a supply package, a monthly supply package of some of the best, homegrown, weeds, and you know what I'm saying. I'm not going to mention every word. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, yeah, right. Perry, you're a slave to sin. Yeah, that dude. Oh man, right. So he's the dude who doesn't sin, but yet he literally in the first 2 seconds when he comes on, he lies. First of all, that dumbass literally lied about who he was. He lied about his identity so that he could join the stream. It's like, so shit, that dude literally lied just to get onto the stream. But that's the dude who doesn't lie, though. I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous. Bear for me a second. Yeah, yeah, I hear you, man. For all those watching, keep that brother in your prayers, man. Yeah, yeah, I hear you, man. I got you covered. But yeah, hell, we're in a trying time right now on all fronts. On all fronts, we're in a trying time right now. But think about how weird this is, right? Like everybody logically think about this for a second, right? On one hand, you have I myself, Jay, Luke from Australia, GMS, and all the other brothers, even some Christians will put in there, teaching people that we have to, repent, we have to follow what Christ said and get right, that we're living in the end times, Christ is soon going to return to judge the world. And apparently, on the other hand, we have these guys like professing preterist and used to be hell. Primal Man used to believe that garbage, and a whole bunch of other dudes. I can't remember the name of them, but they're out there in the hundreds, maybe even the thousands, and they'll go around and tell people, you know, you don't have to really worry about what you do because we're already living in the kingdom. Hey, the end times already happened in the first century. Christ already returned. He set up his kingdom. We're living under him today. So you don't really have to worry, about you don't really have to worry about anything today. Again, it's just so bizarre to me that there's idiots out here who believe that garbage. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm gonna open the stream up today, man. It'll it will depend. It will depend. I don't think so, but we'll see. But again, I just find this to be so bizarre to me. It's like, how the hell in the 21st century could some idiot go around and believe that he lives in the kingdom, but meanwhile, you see the world all around you falling apart? And again, it's like not even just the religious people are seeing it. It's like literally even brain dead zombies in the world that know nothing, even though out there complaining about how bad things are. It's like shit. Even the average atheist, homeless atheist, even they can tell you this ain't the kingdom. And shit, they don't even believe in the kingdom. But even they'll be like, it's like, wait, what the hell do you mean that this is the kingdom of heaven? It's like shit. I'm an atheist and I don't even believe that. So think about how strange it is that even the atheists who don't even believe in the Bible, even they'll come out and say, well, shit, this isn't the kingdom. And they don't even believe in the scriptures. And even they'll agree to that. Shit, like I'll give you an example that literally happened tonight. Like, when hubby was on there with me and Preterist, which he basically was respectful and just sat back and listened for most of the discussion. But then even he chimed in once or twice. I was like, damn, yeah, this dude preterist, this guy's like, doesn't really know what the hell's going on. Right. So even him as an agnostic, being one who doesn't believe in the God of the Bible, even he could see it. This guy was full of shit. Brother said he wanted to talk about World War III. I mean, but that's a good topic, man. I seen to be fair, I haven't read the news articles for the day as far as like the last 24 hours. But I did see just before I came on here that people were putting up on YouTube that today there was a attack by Israel on Iran. So when I do get off of here, I'm going to definitely check that out and see what's the current news over in in Israel and all that. GTF said, ETT, how does World War III start according to the Bible? Um, well, all I'll tell you, man, is World War III, just like the last two world wars, they opened up on multiple different fronts, right? So what we're witnessing right now is a third world war, but it's opening up in multiple different areas. Like, I'll give you an example. You got Israel fighting against Hamas in Gaza. You got them fighting the Iranians. You have the Houthi rebels that are joining the fight, targeting container ships that have connections to Israel. You have America and Britain just a couple months ago. They sent some fighter jets in there to hit some of the bases of the Houthi rebels. Right. Again, you can look this up, fact check what I'm saying. Of course, you have the whole Ukraine war happening. And matter of fact, I believe, what was it, North Korea, if I'm not mistaken, they actually just sent a few thousand troops to Russia to join in the fight. I believe it was like maybe what 3 days ago or something like that. You can look it up, right? And then Iran's backing them, right, sending them drones and missiles. So again, there is a world war opening up on multiple different fronts right now. Like, again, think about how bizarre this is, right? Somehow we're living in heaven, but the next world war is literally opening up all around the world right now. Like think about how bizarre and how brain dead this is for somebody to believe this. How the hell could Christ be ruling over the earth right now if all these nations are starting to host themselves against each other? Right? They're starting to hate one another and wanting to go into a war, wanting to go into a multi-year conflict that's going to result in millions of lives lost over stupid reasons. Shit, like, I'll give you an example that happened like a year and a half ago. Um, what was this whole thing with? If you look on YouTube, you can find videos about this, about the grain deal with the, was it the Black Sea, right? The Black Sea grain deal. And what was happening was the Russians were shooting missiles onto Ukrainian container ships that were transporting like rice and grain to like Africa. And, they had to come to some type of agreement to stop hitting these container ships and try to give them like a free passageway to transport this grain, because people in other countries, they relied upon this grain to feed themselves and their families. Right. I believe the bill was something like the the Black Sea grain deal or something. Again, you can look this up on YouTube and you get information about what I'm talking about. As far as I know, the deal came to an end, but for a year or so the deal stood. Both sides respected it. Hey, Galapagos, how you doing, man? Galapagos said, ETT, when you get the chance, check Discord. Some dude interviewed, what was this, Izuku? LOL, they're crazy. I don't know who the hell that is, man. I never seen that name before. What was that, Isaac or something? Azuk. I don't know who the hell that is. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's bizarre, man. Ray Brother said some bug outs think we are in the new millennia reign. Yeah, that's pretty bizarre. Like, that's a whole nother thing I see people talk about, right? Like what some people are trying to say, like some people are partial preterist. Remember, there's a difference between a partial and a full preterist, right? So if somebody tells you they're a preterist, ask them, what do they mean by that? Do they mean that they're a partial preterist or full preterist? The difference being a partial preterist, they believe that most things in the Bible happen, but not all of it. But then the full preterist believes all things in the Bible, front to back, has already taken place. So it's very important to clarify when somebody does say it, they're a preterist, right? Very important to clarify what they mean by that. Right, but some partial preterists, what they're doing is they're trying to say, well, yeah, Christ already returned and he reigned for a while, but now we're in Satan's like little season when he's let loose. Right. So now Satan's let loose for a little season, and we're after the time that Christ reigned for a short while. Right. He reigned for 1,000 years, but now we're living after that time period where like Satan is let loose and, doing what he wants. Which I just find that to be so asinine and retarded. It's ridiculous to me, but again, this is the garbage that people on the internet believe. It's very bizarre. So let's get a little bit into the name of the stream. I included something along the lines of Polygamy Debate Aftershow. So what happened was yesterday, I went on to Nick's channel, right, Signs and Wonders, and I had a debate with this dude, Caden. He also calls himself Neo. Shit, that dude must have, got that from the Matrix or something. Which, by the way, I've seen 3 of the Matrix movies. I actually got those from thrift store. But the 4th movie, which I hear is actually pretty bad, I haven't seen that one yet. But in my humble opinion, I don't think The Matrix needed any type of 4th movie. I mean, the sequel of 3 movies was conclusive to the story for those who've seen it. So that I can't answer about the 4th movie. But shit, when he said his name was Neo, I was like, damn, first thing that came to mind was the Matrix movie. But yeah, going back to what I was saying is I had a debate with Caden or Neo, whatever word you want to use, about polygamy, right? Does the Bible allow polygamy? And the whole reason what sparked my interest to do the conversation is to I was listening to a stream that Nick did maybe 2 days beforehand, and then one of my buddies, Rudy, jumped on. Which Rudy, he's a cool guy. He knows his stuff, but he has errors as well. But a good buddy of mine, I would consider him. So he went on there and they were having a conversation about, well, does God do good and evil? And then the other topic that came up that was polygamy, right? The second topic that came up was the topic of polygamy and, is it allowable and whatnot, right? So I was like, shit, Nick, go ahead and contact Neo and let's see if we can set up a conversation because I was listening to the discussion and, no offense towards Caden, but, he definitely didn't really know what he was talking about on the topic. So we had the discussion, which was, I want to say maybe an hour and 20 minutes, something like that. And it was actually pretty good, right? A lot of people were on my side, a lot of people were on Neo's side. And yeah, it was actually a pretty reasonable conversation, which I will re-upload it soon on my channel. If you want to watch it now, you can watch it on the Signs and Wonders channel. Hell, you can't miss it. My name's in the title and my face is on the thumbnail. But yeah, some of the arguments this guy brought up were very pathetic and childish. And it's nothing new that we haven't heard before. Like, say for instance, guys try to bring up what is it, Deuteronomy 17:16, where it says that he shall neither multiply wives to himself, But then they skip, it also says that he shall not multiply horses or silver and gold to himself. And who's the him there? It's talking about the king, right? The ruler, right? So it says the ruler should not multiply wives to himself, horses or silver and gold. Now, is that saying that it's a sin for a king to have multiple women? No, it's just giving a guideline, meaning, don't be overindulgent in these things. And then I asked him, it's like, wait a second, if you're going to focus on when it says wives, well, what about when it says horses, silver, and gold? Well, every king has multiple horses. Every king has multiple piles of silver and gold. So does that mean that they're in sin? Hell, you can bet that David and Solomon and every other king of Israel had their stash of silver and gold and plenty of horses and women. So how can we just focus on the woman and say, well, yeah, they're in sin for that, but then pretend that it didn't say 3 other things that all these kings have? So by his logic, all those kings must be in sin because they had an abundance of horses and abundance of silver and gold. So clearly the verse is not saying that if the king has like 3 or 4 women that he's in sin. It's just giving a guideline saying, you shouldn't overindulge in these things. Like, I'll give you an example. Drinking alcohol is not a sin, but if you overindulge in it, it can become a sin, right? It's a sin to be a drunk man, or it's a sin to get drunk, but it's not a sin to drink alcohol. Even Christ himself drank alcohol, all right? So, same thing with the woman. It's not a sin to get multiple women, but there's restrictions and guidelines that come along with getting multiple women. And I even showed in the discussion, when we go into the Old Testament, whether we bring up Ecclesiastes 21:10 or Deuteronomy 21:15, both of those verses talk about if a man has more than one wife, and then it elaborates. In the one instance, it talks about how, I believe it was the Deuteronomy verse, talks about how, if a man has 2 wives, he has to give the double inheritance to his firstborn son above his secondborn son, even if he favors the one above the other. Now, notice it doesn't condemn the man for having 2 wives. It just gives a guideline on how he's supposed to distribute his inheritance to his sons from the 2 women that he was married to. And then the Exodus one, what was it? Exodus 21:10. It says if a man takes another wife, he cannot, restrict um, his duties to his first wife. Say, for instance, he has to still clothe his first wife, meaning what? He has to buy her clothing. He has to feed his first wife, and he also has to, lay with his first wife. That's what it says. Now, notice it doesn't condemn him for having 2 wives. It just said that if he does get another wife, he has to still take care of his first wife and perform the duties of marriage to her as his wife. But it doesn't condemn the man for having 2 wives. So, I mean, this dude is cooked, right? With all due respect, he's cooked on the very first presentation that I give with those couple of precepts. And again, I challenge anybody, right? I challenge anybody on it. If you're going to claim that polygamy is a sin, you need to be able to prove in the Bible and in the law where it is a sin, and nobody can do that. You can't go to the New Testament and prove it. You can't prove it in the Old Testament. It can't be done. Now, I even explained, even when we read Paul's writings, right? If you read 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, starting from the top, Paul said it's good for a man to not even marry a woman. Right, but then he said, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. But he said, hell, it's good for a man not even to marry a woman at all. So some men, it might be a smart idea to remain single for multiple different reasons. For other men, it might be good to get a wife. For some men, it might be good to have 2 wives. There's clearly examples in the Bible of men who can handle having multiple spouses, and you can't skip that fact. And that's what a lot of these guys are doing. And the other knockout for these guys is Christ taught the law from the Old Testament. Right? I keep having to go to these verses with these guys because either they don't pay attention or they have a bad memory, right? They don't remember these verses. Like Matthew 5:17 and 19. Christ said, I didn't come to do away with any of the law. Anybody who teaches to break the least of the law will be least in the kingdom of heaven. But he who teaches to keep the law, he'll be great in God's kingdom. So wait a second, why the hell is Christ saying if you teach any man to break even the very least in the law, you'll be least in the kingdom, but if you teach men to keep God's law, you're going to be great in God's kingdom? Clearly, he's showing the importance of the law. And guess what? Polygamy is included in there. The man having more than one wife is included in that law. And to say that it's not, well, you're just a liar. The whole other point I schooled him on is I asked him about if God ever changes. Because the Bible says in Malachi 3:6, it says, I, the Lord, change not. Therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. But wait, it says, I, the Lord, change not. So wait, if the Lord never changed, then how can you say that a few thousand years ago polygamy was accepted, but today it's not accepted? You're saying that God changed, his morals changed, but the Bible says that he doesn't change. And even if you want to say that Jesus is the Father, right? If Jesus is the supreme God, you're still put in the box because the Bible says in Hebrews 13:8, it says Christ was the same yesterday, today, and forever. Wait, so again, if Christ was the God that we read about in the Old Testament, then he never changed. So how the hell could you say that a few thousand years ago polygamy was accepted, but in 2024 it's not allowed anymore? If the Bible says God and his morals never changed. That's just not thinking logically. People are just delusional. Yo, how are you doing, Luke? Hope you're doing well. Look at that. We got even Neo in the chat. Yo, I'm talking about you, man. But yo, I also give you some respect, Neo. I do appreciate the conversation. And yo, I'm calling you out, man. We got to do that second debate about does the God of the Bible do evil? Does he create evil? Because you're gonna, man, that's gonna be a good one. Man, hey, I hope you go back and study some stuff, man, because that's gonna be a doozy for you. I mean, hey, we that come around here, man, we understand that the God of the Bible is balance, right? He both created the good and he created the evil, says so the Bible. Now, that doesn't mean that he sins just because he created the evil. Like, I'll give you, let me see, do I want to save any of these hard hitting points for the discussion? Let me see real quick. Like, I'll give you an example of God sending evil. Because his whole argument, if you listen to the discussion that Neo did with my buddy Rudy, Neo tries to say that whenever we see God doing evil, like say for instance Isaiah 45:7 or Amos 3:6, he says that just means calamity. Like say for instance, like natural disasters like earthquakes, a tsunami, um, volcanic eruption, and so on and so forth. Right? That's his position. He believes it always just means like a calamity. And that's not entirely true. Now, I can agree there are some context when it does refer to a calamity. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, when 70 AD happened, that was a calamity upon the people in that city. Right? That was considered a calamity. But God used the Romans to do it. I'll give you an example. Like when, say, for instance, when you read Exodus, right, when the Egyptians chased the Israelites through the Red Sea, God brought the waves back and crushed those Egyptians in the sea. So he used the ocean to do it. He used the Red Sea to do it. Right. So I agree in some instances the evil can mean calamity, but not in every instance. Like, let me give you one. Like, if you read, and GMS brought this out recently, it was really good verse. If you read Psalms chapter 70, what is it, 79 and verse 48, right? 79 verse 48, it says, and God shall send upon them evil angels. Wait, evil angels? That's not a calamity. So that's an example of the word evil being used, evil being sent by God. That doesn't mean a calamity. So that's a cut right there. And that's just one example. Let me see real quick. Oh, this dude said, again, this is the dude that I did the debate with yesterday. The dude said, here's my argument. You can't use actions during the times of the Old Testament as justification to commit condemned heresies today because you live in the time of the New Testament. Well, here's my question for you. Can you show me where polygamy is condemned as a heresy? You cannot show that. His position, because again, if you didn't watch the discussion, you might not get what I'm saying. But his whole position was, well, the early church fathers said it was wrong, so that means it's wrong. And then I ask him, well, wait a second. Whatever the early church fathers say, that's not God's word, right? If we're having a discussion about the Bible, we have to keep it book, chapter, verse, not what some Pope named Peter or Francis said in the 1st or 2nd century. You know what I'm saying? It's that would be extra biblical sources. And again, if you want to believe in that, you can, but that doesn't apply when we talk about a biblical discussion. So you'd have to show where having multiple wives is a heresy, because you cannot show that. Let me see real quick. Oh, this one I want to comment on. He said, if you appeal to the, I think he misspelled that there, to the justify your actions today using the Old Testament, you by proxy deny the New Testament and in turns Christ's sacrifice. No, I'd say you just have a misunderstanding. Because again, I've shown you in the discussion that Christ taught to keep the law in the Old Testament. Right? Like when Christ was on earth, he was teaching people to obey the law that came before him. No, and that's clearly shown. Yeah, this shows that this dude, is again not the brightest bulb in the box, so to speak. Right? He said, "We are no longer beholden to the laws of Moses; we are beholden to the laws of Christ, as affirmed by the." Oh, look there, as affirmed by the Catholic Church. Let me say that again, as affirmed by the Catholic Church. Let me say that again, as affirmed by the Catholic Church. So again, he's saying what the Roman Catholic Church says is true. Hey, look, he stepped on a rusty nail right there, right? That brother stepped on the bear trap with that comment. Again, he believes that Jesus Christ is the Father. So doesn't that mean the law in the Old Testament was Jesus's law? Because he was the Father, right? So that's a cut. And then the laws of Christ. Well, how the hell could the laws of Christ and the laws of God, or as he said, the laws of Moses, which are actually God's law, because God gave the law, Moses didn't make it up. So how the hell were the laws of Christ and the laws of God different if they're the same? That don't make sense. And Galapagos said, Neo, you ever talk to Perry Green? Actually, he did Galapagos. If you go back to Perry's channel, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago. Yeah, maybe 3 weeks ago, Nick, not Nick, I mean, Neo called in and had a discussion. And again, I got to be fair. I got to give Neo credit. He did actually a decent job talking to Perry. Again, I myself keep it real and I keep it fair. I don't just sit there and talk shit about people. If people do something right, I give them credit, right? So Neo, even though I'm talking smack about the dude, I give him credit as well, right? He did a very good job doing a discussion with Perry Green. However, when he did the discussion with me, he got slow roasted. Galapagos said you and him have similar beliefs. I mean, shit, it seems like they have similar because they're saying that the law of Christ and the law of God are not the same. So in a way, they are saying similar things, right? In a way, but uh, Neo's certainly not as extreme as Perry, but they're certainly have some correlation, it would seem. Shit, and I want to point out once again, he said here, let's read it again. It says, we are no longer beholden of the laws of Moses. We are beholden to the laws of Christ as affirmed by the Catholic Church traditions. Catholic Church traditions. So that shows you where his mind is. His mind is in what the Christian churches have to say. Like I'll guarantee you something, right? This dude probably believes in Dante's Inferno if he knows what that is, right? That depending on what you do, it'll determine what layer of hell that you are put at, like what layer of punishment you go to, right? In Dante's Inferno, there's like 9 layers of hell. Like, say for instance, a leader like the weird mustache guy from World War II. I'll use code language here. He's probably on like layer 9, but then a thief that steals TVs from Walmart, he's at like layer 1. And then a woman who commits adultery her whole life, she might be at layer 4. Just for hypothetical examples of Dante's Inferno. And then the level of punishment is like different at the different levels of the Inferno. Again, you can Wikipedia this if you want to learn more. Neil said the Psalm 78, 49 verse in context is talking about destroying angels or disastrous angels. Yeah, but you fell on your own sword though, brother, because those evil angels, those are still from God. God is the one who gives the demand and the command. Again, you're in the wrong. You think that like angels rebelled against God in the beginning and then they got cast to the earth and they're like wicked now working against God. That's not true. The Bible teaches that God is in order overall. In fact, I'll give you an example. And I even mentioned this to you yesterday, but you probably forgot it. If you read was that First Kings 22 19 down to like 23, God was looking for a evil spirit to go and deceive a king. And then the evil spirit came to God, said, I'll go and do what you want. And then God said, go and do it. And then it says that God put a lying spirit, a deceiving spirit to go and lie to a king. Again, you can look this up. Look up the verse I said, read it yourself. God sent a lying spirit to go deceive somebody. So according to Caden, that means that God sinned because it says that he sent a lying spirit. Again, for the record, I don't believe God sinned because I understand God has balance. I don't believe that God is just some type of like, hippie up in the clouds that loves everybody and wouldn't hurt a fly. No, that's garbage right there. And he believes that because he was brainwashed by the Christian. No, but again, when we do that second debate, it's going to come out who's right and who's wrong. And hell, the people can decide. Hell, like I'll give you another example, Neo. Like if you read Job 2, Satan went to God in heaven, which that's funny because how the hell could Satan be in heaven if y'all believe that Satan was vanished from heaven by God? So that's strike one. But then Satan and God are in heaven having a conversation, and they were respectful with one another. Satan was joking around with God, and God was joking around with Satan. And then God sent Satan and told him, hey, look, you can do what you want to Job, but you must spare his life. And then Satan went and did what God told him. He brought temptations and evil upon Job, but he had to spare his life because God said he had to. But guess what? God sent him to go and tempt Job. Satan didn't just go and do that by his own will. God sent him to do that. There's even another one. If you read Jonah, when the people repented of the sins they were doing, it says God repented of the evil that he was going to do upon them. So that's an example where it also doesn't mean calamity. Because how was God going to judge the city? The same way that he did to Sodom and Gomorrah in the Old Testament, by bringing fire and brimstone down upon the city. That's not a natural disaster. That's like that's a supernatural event. The word supernatural, hell, even paranormal. The word supernatural or paranormal mean like out of the ordinary, right? So hell, to see fire come down from the sky, that's out of the ordinary. Hell, you don't see that every day. Let me get caught up on a couple comments. Yeah. Oh, Galapagos, man, that this is a hard hitting question you brought up. His brother said the church fathers of today are fine with rainbow community. And then he said, easy to cut that logic. Yeah, exactly, man. Like I was literally walking downtown today and I literally seen a church flying a pride flag outside of the church. I was thinking to myself, I was like, what the hell? But again, it's everywhere. I went down to the beach, they're flying it. I went, an hour away, they're flying it. It's like they seem to be with it. Oh, and I also want to point out the church is also taught during 2020 that you had to come to the church with a Corolla yab and wearing a face diaper. So, again, according to Caden, that's all good because that's what the church teaches. But yeah, Caden, I mean, again, if we're going to go by that logic, right, because, and he gave a thumbs up to the Catholic Church, right, and as I showed you earlier. So the Catholic Church, they allow man and man marriage. That's allowed. And even Pope said, what does this do? Pope Francis? Even he came out and said it was not a sin anymore. So according to him, he must accept that because that's what the church teaches. Let me just see real quick. Then Neo responded to Galapagos and said, keyword early. Then Galapagos said, doesn't matter. Early of today, they aren't the ones to dedicate what is wrong and change the Bible. Yeah, exactly. No, it's not up to some early church father in the 4th century to change God's will about, polygamy or about eating swine's flesh or about, what you wear or, so on and so forth. It's not up to them to change. That's not, they don't have the choice to change what God said. Said universal church. Well, what do you mean? First of all, the word Catholic means universal, right? The word Catholic means universal. So I don't know what you mean when you say universal church. Like, do you really think that at one point in time there was like one universal church that was teaching the exact same doctrine? I mean, I don't know how the hell that would work 2,000 years ago, though, because remember, there were no internet back then. So, like, if two congregations wanted to even meet and have a discussion, they would have to, like, hell, if they're not in the same city, they're going to have to travel for days, maybe weeks on end, if they're in different locations, like, like different kingdoms or whatever. So again, very difficult back then. So I don't see how there was like a universal church around the world that taught the same thing. Neo said, in the context is not evil. They are destroying angels whenever God enacts his judgment. Well, the angels, they come from God. In fact, let me give you one more example, right? Like when you read, what is that? If you read Matthew 24 and was it Matthew 25, among other examples, when the angels, gather the wicked and cast them into that fire, they're doing that. That's God's will that they're doing, right? God's sending them to do it. Like, I'll give you another example in the same chapter. Like, even when you read about the rapture of the elect, God sent the angels to do it. God sent the angels to gather together his elect, but it's still his command. He's still the one who sent them, right? Like, I'll give you a whole nother example. Who killed John the Baptist? Well, yeah, what was the king's name off the top of the head? Yeah, it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. Oh, Herod. There we go. King Herod. King Herod had John the Baptist beheaded. Now, did King Herod literally go down into the dungeon and whack John's head off? No. He sent an executioner to go and perform that. But still, Herod is the one who ordered the death of John the Baptist. But he sent an executioner to do it, right? But he's still the one who did the killing, as in he commanded it to be done. So even though he physically didn't get up and take John's life, he commanded it to be done. So he was the one who had him killed, even though he literally didn't fulfill the act himself. So say, for instance, when we see God send evil angels, God's sending the angels, but it's God's will being carried out. So again, bro, there's no way to get around the fact that God creates both good and evil, creates light and create darkness. And there is no way around the fact that God does good and he can send evil. Again, it's just, in your mind, again, it's not just you, it's, millions and millions and millions of people around the world have this misconception about God, right? We think he's just like some, hippie that loves everybody, wouldn't hurt a fly. But this is the same God who wiped out all life on earth except a couple of men and their wives and a couple of animals. My question for you, Caden, when the great flood happened, why did God kill the little 5-year-olds? Why did God kill the past, what was it, the animals, right? The grazing fields of animals? Why did God wipe them out if they don't commit sin? Right? Could you answer that for me real quick? Why do you think God, when he flooded the world, why did he take out little babies and elderly people and you know, farm animals and stuff? Like, why did he drown all of them in a worldwide flood and only spare a couple men and their wives and a couple not, well, animals? You get what I'm saying. Meant to say just a bunch of animals. And the Northern, this dude on here, the Northern Israelite. That's probably a troll channel. I never seen that cat before. Northern Israelite. Man, shit. Based on this dude's comments, I know he has a Trump flag outside of his yard. You know what I find funny? Earlier today, we drove past this shop. I never seen this before. It's literally like a house, like somebody's literal house, and they made like a Trump store there. Like you can go there and buy like Trump mannequins, Trump dolls, Trump signs, American flags, Trump hats, Trump shirts, so on and so forth. Shit, they probably even got like signs, Trump cards or whatever there as well. I wouldn't doubt it. I was like, wow, that's weird. I was wondering where the hell everybody in this area over here in Pennsylvania, where the hell is everybody getting these Trump flags? Like, there's literally a dude up the street that has a flag, like a custom flag from, the day that he almost got assassinated, right? When he, held his fist in the air. That famous picture that everybody knows. He literally has a flag of that in his front yard. I was like, shit, where the hell did this guy get that? And the dude literally put it up, I kid you not, like 3 days after the attempted assassination attempt. It's like, shit, where the hell did this dude get that? And the second question is, who the hell already 3 days after this happened, who the hell already made merchandise of this? It's funny. So not only did they come up with the concept of the merchandise, they already got it manufactured and shipped out literally 3 days after it happened. It's like, damn, that's pretty weird. Someone said Old Testament, New Testament don't have the same theology. I'd say that's incorrect. Bear with me a second. You said telling lies implying that it is an evil spirit or lying spirit. God is aware of the evil nature of these spirits, but allows them to act because they accomplish his will. No, no. God told them to go and be a lying spirit in the mouth of this king. Again, you can read it. And that's just one example. There's other examples I could give you, but that's just one example of how God told him to go and be a lying spirit. Yeah, this dude said Christianity is a religion of the slave morality. Yeah, I can agree with you that, as we Israelites call it plantation Christianity, right? Because our people were brainwashed with this modern Christianity. It is biblical to call yourself a Christian, but the Christian churches that are out here are certainly there to brainwash people and keep people in a low vibration, right? Keep people uneducated. That's what most of these churches are for out here. Like I've literally seen churches. Like I remember the brother Luke from Australia sent me a video last year. There was a church, and what they did for like what was it for the Super Bowl? They literally did like a Super Bowl event in the church, and they literally brought a Bible up on the stage, and they had somebody kick it across the room like a damn football. It's like, wow, really? That they kicked the Bible in church like a football? Shit, if you do that in Saudi Arabia, you do that to you do that to the Quran, man, that's your ass right there. Yeah, they don't put up with that shit over there, man. But again, in America, you're openly allowed to disobey and disregard God's word. Like there's literally a dude, this guy named Brother Polite, which he's in jail right now. But this dude named Brother Polite, he literally took the Bible to a shooting range and he shot the Bible up with a gun. It's like shit. You're allowed to do that. If you do that in some of these other countries, man, that's your ass. They don't take that disrespect over there. You said God does not create evil, but allows it to happen in certain circumstances. No, the Bible says that God creates evil. It says that he can do evil. Like, I'll give you another example, right? Another way to prove it. The Bible says that man was created in God's own image. So if me and you have the ability to do good to a person or harm to a person, why would God not have the same ability? And I got another question for you, Neo. Is it a sin to hate people? Is it a sin to hate in general? That's a question I have for you, man. Is it a sin to hate? That's my question for you. And while you're answering that, wouldn't you consider hate to be evil as a Christian? As a sweet, loving Christian, wouldn't you consider hate to be evil? Look at this. This dude said, when I asked him about the flood, right? Um, And I'm not bringing you on, Neo, tonight just because I'm not in the mood to talk to anybody. In fact, I had other people who wanted to join. I told them I didn't want to bring anybody on tonight, but I am addressing your comments. But don't worry though, Neo. We're definitely gonna in the near future have a discussion about the topic. I look forward to it. Uh he said God's act of taking those children's lives was a divine mercy, given what the Bible seems to teach about the age of accountability. Children were killed in the flood, escaped damnation in hell. Those who grew up to hate and defy God would have lost would have been lost eternally lost. While not certain, it's at least possible the flood was an act of mercy on the young, for that reason to be abundantly clear. No, that doesn't say that in the Bible, man. Like, let's just be fair. You're adding that. The Bible doesn't say that the flood was an act of mercy on people. It doesn't say that. Again, you're welcome to believe that, but that's not in the text. Now, do you want to know the answer from me as to why God took the lives of the young? I'll give you an example, which, by the way, it happens multiple times in the Bible. The Bible is a dark book. The Bible is not just peaches and creams like you guys make it out to be. There's dark things in the Bible. And those of us who actually study the Bible, we understand this. The Bible is a book of love and about judgment. God of the Bible makes both love and hate, makes good, creates evil. God is an even balance. Now, one reason those children were lost in the flood is they could have in their past lives been a wicked man. Like, I'll give you an example. If you read John chapter 9, the apostles came across a man who was born blind from his birth, and they asked Christ, was this man born blind because of his own sins or for the sins of his parents? That shown there was an idea they had that you could be born disfigured or with disabilities based on your own sins. Now, what sins would that be? That would be sins that you committed in your past life. Because another point of contention is I believe in reincarnation, you don't. So that would be another point of contention. So those children lost, many of them in their past life could have been wicked. Because remember, at that point, the Bible says that really the only good man on earth was Noah and his family, right? So everybody else was wicked, according to the Bible. So the children in their past lives, they could have been wicked. So in their current life, God judged them for their past life. I don't got time to read all. I don't have time to read all comments put up, man. Otherwise, I'll be here for 5 hours. You should be you should be grateful that I'm addressing 50% of your comments because I don't address every comment on here. Thank you very much. Neil said, yes, hatred can be considered a sin, but it depends on what is being hated and how it is felt. But let me ask you a question, Neo. In Romans 9 and verse 13, but if you start at verse 11, it says, before the children were even born, before they had done anything good or bad, God already decided. And then it says, Jacob I love, but Esau I have hated. So the Bible says that God already decided he hated Esau before he was even born. So for one, God hated him before he was born. And then two, it says God hated. So that's a dilemma right there. The Bible says God hates. But you know what? I'm going to make a prediction here. I'm going to make a prediction before I even look at the comments. I bet that Caden's going to say that hate in the context just means he loves less. That's my prediction, right? Like I hear idiots tell me on the internet that when it says God hates, it just means he loves them less. So he still loves them, but he just doesn't love them as much as another person, which is just so asinine and ridiculous, but it just shows how delusional some people are. This is an interesting comment. The Northern Israelite said, I believe this is in response to what Caden said. He said, according to Catholicism, babies without baptism are damned. So those babies would have went to hell. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Well, at least against what Neo says, because of course I don't accept that there's a hell. Oh, and then Galapagos said, same with Orthodox Christians. Yeah, that could be true. Neo said, according to St. Thomas, what is this? Aquinas, it is okay to hate sin, but not the sinner. Sin is a defect of being, so it is the sin that should be hated. Yeah, basically saying the sin that should be hated, but not the sinner. But okay, but again, this is another dilemma though, because again, get out your notebook, Kate, and take some notes of this. If you read Psalms chapter 5, verse 5, it says, the foolish will not stand in your sight because you hate all the workers of iniquity. So the Bible doesn't say God hates the sin, but not the sinner. It says he hates the workers of iniquity. If you read Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 6, it says God hates sinners. So again, according to the Bible, God hates the sin and the sinner. In fact, the Bible says that God is wicked. Let me phrase myself, excuse me. It says God is angry with the wicked every day. Right? It says God is angry with the wicked every day. And the key of that is it says the wicked. It doesn't say they're just their actions alone. It says the wicked, as in the person. So again, that's another misconception. The Bible says God hates both the sin and the sinner. He hates the acts they're doing and he hates the person. Of course, it's possible for a sinner to become righteous, but while they're actively living in sin, God hates them. And this is a fact that you can't deny. Yeah, Galapagos brought up, which we already addressed it, but for sake of argument, right, Isaiah 45:7, I formed light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Doesn't say I sent Satan to do all these things. It says I, the Lord, do all these things. Yeah, this is a good point, and I agree I almost called him Southern Israelite. I agree with Northern Israelite. Shit, this dude must be an off-brand version of the Southern Israelite. I mean, shit, that must be a conspiracy now. Or this dude's on here named the Northern Israelite. This dude must either be an off-brand version of the Southern Israelite, or a Drake, as he calls himself, or as I call him, Day Damn Devil Demon Dreadlord, right? Because his other channel was called Dreadlord. So that's 5 D's in a row. Day Damn Devil Demon Dreadlord, or Drake, whatever last D you want to add in there. But this is a great point. I absolutely agree with it. He said, yeah, Jesus never corrected them on those beliefs. He simply said it was not the case with that particular guy. So in that gospel, Jesus was um in facto confirming reincarnation. Yeah, I agree. In the example of John 9, with that particular man, the reason he was born blind was so that God could perform a miracle through that man for people to see and believe. But the whole reason I brought it up was to show that there was a concept that the apostles had when they asked him, why was he born blind? Was it because of his own sin or was it because of his parents' sin? So it shows that they had an idea that you could be born blind or with a disability because of your own sins, right? That's the reason I brought it up. But yeah, in that particular case, that man was born blind so that a miracle could be shown through him. But it shows the concept that was there. Yeah, I don't know how far back I am in the chat. The comments just keep going on and on. These guys are in the comments going back and forth. This dude, shit, maybe Neo, maybe you should contact Nick and set up a debate with the Northern Israelite. That might be interesting. Just messing with you. But to comment on the discussion they're having about like what happens to babies when they die, well, the answer is very simple. The Bible teaches, if you read Job chapter 3, Job goes in to describe the spiritual realm and what happens when a soul departs from the body. He goes in to describe that they're the wicked, they are ceased from suffering, they're the weary, they are at rest. They're the prisoners, they rest together, they hear not the voice of their oppressor. The small and the great are there. And when you go back up in the chapter, he said, I wish I would have been a stillborn. I wish, I never came out of my mother. And there I would have slept with kings and with counselors of the earth. And if you read the whole chapter, he's going in to describe the spiritual realm or where people go when they die. So babies, they're at rest, they're in peace. But guess what? So is every other human. Everybody else who died, including Judas Iscariot, they are at rest. They are at peace. They're not in any type of torment right now. They're not walking in heaven with Jesus either. They're all at rest. Hell, even Paul's at rest right now. He's not up in heaven with Jesus, drinking wine and eating cake. They're at rest. They're in peace. And some of them might even be back in reincarnation, but that'd be a whole nother video. But when you pass away, your soul departs from your body, goes to, and then you enter into a state of rest. Again, there's no evil there. There's no hate there. There's no suffering there. Again, read Job chapter 3, and it will literally elaborate on everything I'm saying in that chapter. Start from the top. Hell, like say, for instance, when Christ told the thief on the cross that today you'll be with me in paradise, that's the paradise he was talking about. There is going to be complete rest, right? There's peace there. There's no suffering at all. John 3:16 doesn't say that sinners are hated because of their sin. That's what it says. Again, I'll answer the question and say this, that why the person is living in sin, God hates them, but it's possible for them to repent and become righteous. If they become righteous, turn to Christ and stop sinning, then they can be forgiven. But while they're actively living that way, God hates them and their actions. And there's no way around that the Bible teaches it. And I'll give you another example. If you read, apparently according to Neo, King David was in sin. Well, I guess not only about having multiple wives, right? Because he considers him to be in sin because of the multiple wives. But he's also in sin, apparently, because he said, if you read Psalms, what is that? Psalms 139, verse 21 and 22, it says, I hate them who come against the Lord, and I count all of them my enemy, and I hate them with a perfect hatred. Wait, a perfect hatred? That seems very bitter and hateful, doesn't it? So, Caden, was King David in sin? Remember, that's a man saying that he hates with a perfect hatred. So, was he in sin? That's my question to you. Let's see. Yeah, well, Luke 16 with the rich man and Lazarus, somebody mentioned here in the comments, that's not literal. That's a parable. It represented the wealthy Israelites and the poor Israelites. So it was a metaphor. That's not literal. Just like most things that Christ taught, he gave metaphors and parables. A parable is a symbolic story that is used to show something, right? Like I'll give you an example, right? Like if you remember back in school, we we're always taught the story about the tortoise and the hare. And the moral of the story was to, they would tell us, hey, go slow, take your time, study. Don't just, goof off and play games. Because guess what? At the end of the year, the dudes who goofed around and played games and just had fun, they're going to have to redo the whole year. They're going to have to stay back a grade. But those who actually took the time and studied and, took their time and did what they had to do, they're going to move on to the next grade. Good example of the analogy of the tortoise and the hare, right? So, of course, the tortoise and the hare is a fictional story, but it's um, used as a parable for a deeper meaning behind it, right? So, same thing with what Christ talked about. The parables are not literal stories that actually happen, but they're metaphors that are supposed to have a deeper meaning to them. Yeah, that's a good verse going into the polygamy, which I actually brought this out yesterday. I forget the exact verse off the top of the head. I believe it's in Samuel. I believe it's in Second Samuel, if I'm not mistaken. But I brought this up to Caden, which he didn't really address it. But brother said, it says God gave those multiple wives to David, and God said He would have given him even more to David if it was not enough. Yeah, exactly. The text says that God gave David the wives and the authority and the dominion over certain areas of land. And if that was not even enough, he would have given him even more. It's like, so wait, so if polygamy is like a sin, then why the hell God give a righteous man multiple wives if he's against it? Yeah, Enoch's not part of the Bible. Fun fact though, I did actually pick up the book of Enoch the other day. I was at some thrift shops, right, and at some sales. And I went up to this one, at which I actually at first wasn't even gonna go there because it was like in the back where nobody was at. But I decided to stop and I was looking at the book section they had, and they actually had the book of Enoch back there. I was like, oh shit. So I asked them how much they wanted. They said it was $1. I'll pick it up and give it a read. So I did pick that up and have it in my on my bookshelf. Bear with me a sec. Um, Let me see. But yeah, man, Neo, you can contact me on Discord, and we can work that out, when Nick has some time, and we can set up that conversation about if God does both good and evil. But I'm gonna wrap this up in a couple of minutes here. I didn't expect to go for too long tonight, so I'm gonna be wrapping this up in just a couple of minutes here. Real quick, if anybody made it to the end, if you're watching afterwards, put hashtag. We'll say hashtag Norvin, right? Halftime Norvin, right? For the Northern Israelite. But hell, I haven't seen that cat before, so we'll just give him a little shout out. Um, Let me just see real quick. Damn, it's almost 3 a.m. Thought it was like thought it was like 2 o'clock or something like that. All right, so I'm gonna close the stream out with that. I do thank everybody for stopping by tonight, and and that's going to be the stream.